In today's lecture on video, we're going to be covering the second of 4 pathways to help us with self-regulation, and that is the pathway of using our mind or psychology or psychological mindset to help us maintain self-regulation. Perhaps this is a personal preference or gleaned from clinical work, but I cannot emphasize the importance of this category that helps us with self-regulation, and that is the mediating role of our thinking in the way we feel, in our quality of life, in the way we get through this life journey. Is it going to be a life journey of struggle and suffering, or a life journey of relative joy and ease and excitement? Well, it all depends on that mediating influence of our mindset. So, to begin, we might think about our mindset as a medium by which we can take some control, right? So things happen to us, a lot of things out of our control. We're a tiny little drop of water in an immense sea of human beings, right? There's 8 billion people on the planet. Countries are going to war. Large issues in the economy and social life are bearing upon us, and we are, being pushed and pulled by all of these large forces around us. What are we to do? Well, we can become victims and encode a victim mindset, which is quite disempowering, understandable, but disempowering, or we can actively work on our mindset such that we stay, relatively speaking, self-regulated in the face of threat, chaos, change, and that is something that we can control. The power of our mindset, again, should not be understated. One way we might do this in order to stay self-regulated, which again is an ability to stay in right relationship to our impulses, emotions, desires, such that we have a filter or a way of modulating what we are inside with the larger environment around us, is to take perspective, right? So there are certain frameworks, meditations, points of view that can, in the words of a DBT workbook set of authors, connect you to a higher power, the universe, or the bigger picture. This is really important because we on a day-to-day basis tend to get very narrow, very petty, and we don't realize the problem or the frustration or the drama that we're in the face of, its proper place in the grand scheme of things. We get into tunnel vision in the face of threats. And one author on Psychology Today, his name's Bryan Robinson, talks about how we need to overcome the inherent tunnel vision we have in the face of a threat by adopting what he calls a wide-angle lens, okay? So he calls this broaden and build, which allows you to bracket the here and now stressor and then brainstorm a wide range of possibilities, solutions, and opportunities, as well as choices. Another kind of version of getting into a bigger perspective, which I borrow from Bertrand Russell in his Conquest of Happiness, which I covered in a lengthy series here on this YouTube channel, is when we're kind of self-preoccupied and petty, to take a historical perspective or a bigger worldview. Relatedly, what we can do if we are fearful, right? The mind has such propensity to become fearful and stressed. And in certain instances that is relevant and appropriate, but in many others it's not. What can we do? We can take on the form of a self-soothing, self-encouraging self-talk, which help us into a different perspective and help us cope in a very different way. In a 2018 Forbes article, it was noted that self-talk can actually help you control your emotions. Self-talk should be highlighted and nurtured here as a mediating, powerful and mediating force in our psychology. The way that we talk to ourselves has immense ramifications in terms of our quality of life, well-being, self-esteem, And this is something that you can directly work with and directly control. So one technique in the self-talk tradition is to gain some distance from ourselves. So one way we might do this is actually talking about ourselves in the third person, or thinking about talking and relating to ourselves as if we would a friend. We're often kinder and more compassionate, also more intelligent in our responses when our friends have a dilemma than when we're having the dilemma. So using some psychological distance from ourselves and, kind of observing ourselves in struggle, in conflict, in kind of our lower consciousness, say we want to be jealous, right, is a way of helping us navigate the pitfalls of our psychology and humanity in a way that's helpful rather than producing shame and stress. There are 4 common traps of self-talk and ways of relating to ourselves that we really want to be vigilant around. That kind of comes out of the cognitive behavioral tradition, but I find this really helpful to just underscore to make sure that you're not relating to yourselves through 1, personalization. Okay, so make sure that you're not relating to your life experiences where you blame yourself for everything, right? The other is magnification. So you're focusing on the negative aspects of a situation and you're blowing it up, and you're ignoring context, and you're ignoring the positive, neutral, or good aspects of an experience. You're just kind of running with those negative aspects. Catastrophizing, relatedly, is to expect the worst and to notice the worst in your situation rather than the whole, the context, the gray, the gradations. Also, relatedly, polarizing. So when you slightly like or dislike something, that you go to extremes, right, in all good, all bad, or all black, or all white thinking. These kind of cognitive errors can really destroy a sense of equanimity and a sense of calm and peace throughout the life process, and can really cause a lot of haywire and a lot of extremes of highs and lows, which we want to avoid if we want to live a good life. Again, generally pulling back from some of these specifics, cultivating our attitude, cultivating our mindset, cultivating our response in the face of different events that befall us or the situations that we're in is a reliable resource for us that really does help us stay regulated in the face of all this flux and ups and downs, right? That where we can take a healthy stance in the face of the life process. So, for example, if we want to take control of our attitude, we might cultivate resilience and not indulge in snap judgments of good or bad, right? Not in that polarity. We might savor the good. In Rick Hanson's Neurodharma, he suggests this practice, which is essentially a gratitude practice, where we, try to stay positive and appreciate, right, the nourishing aspects of our experience. We can really stay positive, grounded, and open to what happens to us if we can do these kinds of practices and regulate, right, the good and the bad that flow our way. We're trying to regulate that so that we stay wholesome and we don't get too traumatized and we don't get too hardened or jaded. A lot of things in life can push us into these directions so that we don't become chronically depressed or chronically closed off. So we want to keep regulating our mindset such that we are, relatively open to what's to come. Make sure to check out our recently released E-Workbook that accompanies this teaching. It's now available for download on the Center for Higher Consciousness website. It is an opportunity for you to engage this material, a little bit of a deeper dive. It's customizable and gives you an opportunity to reflect personally on what's being taught, and now it is conveniently fillable. So this is just kind of a sneak peek as to what it looks like and how you might interact with it. Again, it is on the Center for Higher Consciousness website, available for purchase and download and I will include a link in the description box below if you are interested. Stay tuned for ways that you might regulate yourself through spiritual practices in our next video.